All righty, welcome to the program. I'm Wally Conway from Monument Commercial Building Inspections. We're going to spend a brief amount of time talking about the mandatory balcony inspections in the state of Florida. Most people don't even know they exist. A story on how that came to be. Here at Monument Commercial Building Inspections, we inspect commercial buildings all over the Southeast, be they multifamily or restaurants, just about every type of commercial building. And about a half a dozen years ago, we got a call in the office and the person said, hey, can you do for us the mandatory balcony inspections that are required in Florida? And I said, wow, I didn't know there were mandatory balcony requirements in Florida, inspection requirements. And they're very, very stringent. They're very simple, but like so many things in real estate, what bites you isn't the things you've done wrong, but rather what often bites you and surprises you is the things that needed to be done that nobody ever told you. So I am going to share with you very briefly exactly what those requirements are, when they're required, what kind of buildings require it, and how to simply be in compliance with the law. And it doesn't matter whether you happen to be a commercial building owner, a manager, very often in the cases of hotels, the franchisee of the hotel is different than the owner of the building or the real estate agent. And I'll show you what the requirements are in purchase and sale. So without further ado, we're going to screen share so you can see right along with me. Now, I'll share with you also, we're doing this on Zoom live. We're also simultaneously streaming on Facebook Live. We're also then uploading to YouTube for distribution on LinkedIn. So depending on when and where you see this, we may or may not be able to interact so well. For my Zoom friends, all you need to do is put anything that's on your mind in the chat, and I'll be sure to integrate it right into the mix. For those of you on the other platforms, if it's Facebook Live, just put it in the commentary. I'll respond to you. If it's on LinkedIn, just come through Messenger. So we're not going anywhere, and I'm grateful to seeing you those with us live. So here we go to the share, and we'll zip right through the program so you'll know everything you actually need to know. All righty, so balcony inspections, as I say, it's just one of many types of inspections that involve commercial buildings, but at the end of the brief program here, you in fact will be an expert on balcony inspections for commercial buildings. So what does the state actually tell us? When is a balcony inspection required? A full inspection of the balconies, including all components and railways, stairways and railings is what they're looking at. And what drives that is a Florida DBPR House Resolution 7020 Certificate of Balcony Inspections, and includes a written document. What happens very often is the initial inspection ends up discovering things, so we document those on the proper form. We put the addendum so they're easy to address and correct, and then we do a brief revisit to go, yep, we're all good. That way the certificate, which I'll share with you in a minute, indicates, yes, you've been inspected and all discrepancies discovered have been corrected. That's what puts you in the right position. The sad thing is when many people discover about this certification and about the mandatory requirements is after an event has occurred. I'll share some of those with you. The first thing that the investigators will do when there's a balcony collapse and when there's injury is, where is the balcony inspection document? And you're like, what document? Not a good place to be in. You want to be able to say, yes, I've got the document. Yes, the document has been done by a third party objectively. It is even a benefit when we're looking at liability management, when the additional document shows discrepancy, then you have the final document showing no discrepancy. And if you'd hired that, you attach the receipts to that. What that's showing is all good faith, compliance with the law, compliance with the safety, hired licensed people, and put you in the best position to minimize the probability of accident. And when something does occur, put you in the best probability to minimize liability, which is very important. So when is a balcony inspection required? A balcony inspection is required on a commercial building that is used, the term of art is public access. I'll show you in that in a bit. That the building is 3 or more stories tall, or the balcony structure, one or more of the structures, is 17 feet or more above grade. It's been more than 3 years from the last inspection, or the building changes ownership. Now, when the building changes ownership, regardless of when the last one was done, it needs to be done again to comply with the law. I'll show you the law in a moment. And from then on, every 3 years. So the simple thing to do is get it done on transfer, and then put it on auto. So you're always out ahead of it and always in compliance, which is the right thing. I would also suggest for those commercial leasing agents who are leasing long-term lease, hotels is the classic example, where seldom does the business owner of the hotel business also own the property, that anytime the leaseor changes, you do that also. So a rebranding would be a very common time to get that clock reset. All right, why is this important? Because it's intended to protect the property owners from litigation in the event there is a failure or cause of death. More importantly, to reduce the probability of risks or accidents, right? So if there's no accident, there's no suit. There happens to be an accident and there is a suit, you want to be in a position to defend that you've done the right things. And the top causes of injuries associated with balconies, railing failures, very, very common. That's the most common. It is more common that a fixture or a fastener in the railing fails than it is the entire balcony. Yet the net result is often the same, a catastrophic injury. And we're looking to avoid that. Structural failure, where the entire balcony fails, not as common. The difficulty with that one, and I'll show you a picture or two in a minute, is when the railing fails, all that goes over the side is whoever was landing on it, leaning on it, right? Could be one person, could be a little kid, could be a few people. When the structure itself fails, it tends to cascade down onto the balconies beneath it, often doing a patty cake and taking more and more balconies along the way. So it's very, very dangerous. Improper construction or fastening, it is more rare that it's a construction-related failure, but rather it's usually a maintenance failure. So someone noticed there was a problem with an attachment point or a problem with a screw or a nut or a bolt or a post, and they used an inappropriate fastener or inappropriate repair. That's the most common thing that we see, not construction defect, rather either deferred maintenance or inappropriately done maintenance. Wood rot or metal deterioration, where are so many balconies in Florida? So many of the balconies are on the ocean front, the waterfront. Accelerated deterioration, I'll show you some examples. And overloading the weight limit. This is especially tragic, and it happens almost every single year with spring break and other festival type things where you get a lot of people on the balcony. It's clearly overloaded. They're jumping up and down and playing music. That's contributory to the failure. But what you don't want is a failure that was contributed to by the misuse by the occupant, and you didn't have the defensible position of the balcony inspection document. So who says you got to do this? DBPR, Florida, right? This is under the governing document. This is actually a 6-page document. I just want to give you enough of it so you can see what we're talking about. Right there at the bottom is the certificate of balcony inspection is required of any hotel or restaurant. And more broadly, think of lodging. There's a lot of things that fall through the cracks. Airbnb tends to be one of them. The way we're using things, they're functioning as a hotel, as public lodging. So you want to be sure if you're using a building with a balcony for public access, if it's functioning like a hotel, you should have the expectation that we treat it as a hotel for the purposes of compliance, safety, and liability management. Okay? Okay. So right above that, just to give you an idea, who needs a public lodging establishment license? And it's interesting, very often the state does this. They change terminology midway through a discussion. At the top, they're talking about hotels and restaurants, and then they're specific. Anyone planning to operate a public lodging establishment in Florida will need a license from DBPR. And then this is the actual form, this 5-page form I'm showing you, that is the application for license to operate the establishment. Living inside that application is in fact the balcony inspection document. It lives on its own elsewhere, but this is what it looks like. It's only a 1-page form. It's very rapid to fill out the form. What takes more time is going balcony, by rail, by stair. It's every single one. It is not a representative sampling. And in any scenario where we don't have access to a particular room number, if it's a hotel or a suite or whatever, we have to annotate which ones were not inspected. That's to get it so we can get back later and then do the addendum so that everything is in fact covered, you're compliant, and if anything's discovered, it can later get solved. So it's very simple. The state also doesn't specify who or what requirements are to do this inspection. Very candidly, anybody can do it. The challenge with that is anybody can do it, yet if there is a problem, and it's done internal by your local maintenance man or wherever, you really didn't do much to escape the liability. That's the problem. So to not do this correctly and not do this with qualified people is to not fully mitigate the risk, and you don't want that. So what do these things look like when they fail? This is an example. This was in student housing, as it turned out, where a balcony collapsed and fell down on the balcony above it, killing people. 6 people were killed, 7 people were injured. The good news in this is the failure didn't continue to cascade down the building, doing even more damage, harming or killing more people. This is tragic stuff. And you know, when you look at this building, it doesn't look old. It looks very sound. It looks very good, right? We need to be out there looking of signs and indications of failure so they can be properly evaluated and repaired if necessary. This is another simple example of what in the heck is a balcony. And we actually have these in the condo where I live. Balconies that don't go anywhere, right? It has a sliding glass door. It has a rail. No reasonable person would go out onto that balcony, but it in fact is a balcony. If it's a balcony, we need to do those things to make sure we're compliant with the law, it's safe for the occupants, and the risk management is in place. So different things motivate different people. Some it's about saving lives, some it's about risk management. Some people just like to be compliant. And ideally you'll be all three, and we'll have the opportunity to do this together. So that in a nutshell, my friends, is all there is to balcony inspections. The very fact that you are aware that there are balcony inspections puts you in the top 1% of real estate professionals in the universe. Likely you've never heard of this before now. It's been on the books for decades, and you're in a position to be compliant. So if you have questions, you can stick them in the chat. If you're watching this, as I say, on Facebook Live or LinkedIn or other place later, just send me a note. We'll get you everything you need to know how to be compliant. Here at Monument Commercial Building Inspections, we can do these all over the Southeast. For those who may be managing multiple buildings and multiple locations, we can care to all that. We've got staff we can disperse all over the place, plus we have people in other places. So anyway, thank you so much for being with me. I promised we'd do a quick in and out. That was barely 15 minutes. You have a beautiful day, and be safe by being compliant.